All right, welcome to the first podcast for the Conscious Living Fair with our guest, Erik Roth here. And here on the Conscious Living Fair podcast, what we do is we talk to vendors and other people in the community that like to share their aspect where they came from and the things that they believe in the conscious living in general. So I am Sol Santos, and this is Erik Roth. And Erik, would you like to tell our guests, our listeners, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm excited. I'm a recent transplant, if you will, to Ashland. Lived in Portland for a couple of decades. So I'm excited to get more integrated into the community and contribute more and connect with more people. But my journey, I'm an astrologer, shamanic astrology, I call myself, but I also work with what I call alchemical astrology. And it's just about, it's a holistic look or approach to astrology, looking at both the light and the shadow of who we are as human beings and what our roles are in humanity, in our own lives, and what are the answers to where we're going? What's our journey all about? So it's helping people thrive in this life through the tool and the language of astrology.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And the stars have been guiding us for millennia, right? Since the dawning of time. Right?
Pretty much. Yeah. Some of this part of the excitement is when I first learned about shamanic astrology and sat under the stars with a teacher who knew the stars. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is the kind of astrology I want to learn. This is what speaks to my soul. Yeah. Because when I look up into the stars, I see a part of my home. Yeah. A part of my relationship with the cosmos that's almost transcends everything here.
Oh, I get
and that. It's like a certain level of it communicates to us literally in our DNA. We've been doing this, humanity's been doing this for tens of millennia. One of the things that I always share about is one of the examples of that. There's these caves in France that were highlighted during a movie, the Cave of Forgotten Dreams.
Okay.
And this is a cave that's about 30 to 35,000 years old. Dang. Where humans inhabited in France, and there were paintings on the wall that represented constellations.
Oh, that's crazy.
And so and animals and they had handprints and other things in there.
I know what ceremony you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. It was a documentary, and if anyone that hasn't seen it, I fully recommend it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful film. Yeah. But what it shows us is that the stars and the sky above are in our DNA. Yeah. We are inhabiting this planet as a powerful relationship with the cosmos.
So it's like not only are we looking at the cosmos, but the cosmos is inside of us, type of a deal.
It is. It's the adage of the saying of as above, so below, as within, so without. It applies very, very strongly to the stars above, to the planets and their orbits and their patterns and the patterns of humanity, the patterns within ourselves and our own individual journeys. Yeah. And that's what I, in my work, like to communicate to others and share and help them answer the questions about where they are going, because we can reach points in our lives where we might not have answers, but yet the stories are in the sky. Yeah. Humanity's stories are in the sky, and the answers are found within ourselves too. Yeah. And all we can say on the larger picture, all the gods and goddesses and all the mythology and everything, it isn't just stories, but these are our stories, humanity's stories. And yes, they can create creative liberties when they talk about that, but they're all part of us. Yeah. And, it doesn't, there's no limit to what we can discover in that. Yeah. So the only limits are what we really place on ourselves a lot of the time. Now, of course, there are things beyond our control, but if we can just connect into that relationship, we can literally have a better relationship with Earth and our family and our friends and our direction in life.
Yeah. And, there's a couple things that when you said that 35,000 years ago, because in traditional history, they say like written history is only a few thousand, like 4, 5, 6,000 years old or something like that, right? and then this is in the caves from 35,000 years ago. And then the other thing, I think those I saw in a different documentary, is called, I think of the Time of the Forever People or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And they talked about that cave and the paintings. On some of the paintings, they were like, why does it look so, some of the things looked so exact and then certain ones looked so exaggerated. And the ones that were exaggerated were actually symbolic of the astrological signs in the skies.
In the sky, yes.
Right. And they were able to piece it all together. And not only that, they also explained certain measurements and geometrical things, like about the pyramids and everything, and how they correlated with the stars also.
There has been a lot of what they call archaeoastronomy. Research. Archaeoastronomy is essentially looking at the archaeology, like the pyramids and like Stonehenge and other what they call megalithic sites, and their alignments with the stars, the seasons, and the moon, the pattern of the moon's orbit, everything. And particularly the pyramids. The pyramids, Graham Hancock's work. I don't know if you've read anything by him, but that's something I would recommend. There was the Fingerprints of the Gods.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
And he talks about the pyramids and the Sphinx and how the as above, so below is reflective of that from many thousands of years ago. And that the ancients knew the circumference of the earth. They knew all of that. They understood that. They were tapped in. They weren't the primitive people that like so many history books teach. They knew what was going on. I mean, maybe they had help from other sources, perhaps. I mean, that's I'm open to that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm open to that. I've seen enough to know that there are other things out there that we're just not maybe in the mainstream not really realizing. But we know in our hearts there's other things beyond.
Going on.
I mean,
and the government finally did say something, right?
Yes.
Now, supposedly, I don't watch the news, but I've heard
disclosure is happening. What's his name? Stephen Greer. And his work.
Stephen Greer.
I've watched
the 90s.
I recently watched a couple of his documentaries, and it really impacted me. And I was like, this is powerful, because it was the psychic connection to life beyond our planet. Into whatever extraterrestrial intelligence is out there. The video is there. All we have to do is tune into it and see. So to me, it just opens up whole new wavelengths and pathways for us to access in our lives. And the pyramids, the Sphinx, and the connections to the stars and the planets, the astrological part, which has evolved. Many cultures have had astrology in various forms, and it's one of the ways we've been able to like interact with the universe and put order in the universe and understand. So the signs, the 12 signs, are kind of the latest incarnation of it, like on a larger mainstream level. But there's of course a lot more there than that. But it's a big, powerful part of that.
So with astrology and the 12 signs, what are those? Are they like archetypes, or you know what I mean? What do they represent, kind of?
The archetypes, yes.
Are they? Okay.
So in my work, I look at the signs as archetypes. Like Carl Jung, who brought archetypes. So he didn't invent the word, but he brought it to the modern age. And his work with that inspired Daniel Giamario and other astrologers in identifying the signs as archetypes. And when I learned about that, I had actually started to study Jung even before I studied shamanic astrology. And so when he brought that forward, I was like, oh yeah, that's a connection right there for sure.
Synchronicity.
Right? So archetypes, if for those of you who don't know the word, essentially they are embodiments of imagery that are in our unconscious self. And they're part of our DNA, and they evolve with us. I like to call them living images, because they interact with us, but yet they live with us inside, but they're also out there too. So they don't have like life as we might describe it on a biological level. These are things that are more almost akin, energetic, possibly even like not quite spirit beings, but there's some elements of that are part of the archetype itself. So like if you say, oh, I'm a Gemini sun sign, or I'm a Capricorn sun sign, you have that image, that living image within you. It's part of you. Of course, it's not the only thing that defines you. You know, the sun is only part of our makeup. Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, our rising sign, all play powerful roles. And what signs are they in? You know, if one can uncover that for themselves, they can learn a lot more about who they are and where they're going. On a deeper level. Yeah, very much so. I'm a Gemini sun, moon, and rising. Oh, wow. Gemini. I think I was tuned into that. Gemini, so that's why you said that. That's why I was like, hey. They like to, of course, Gemini energy loves to connect and communicate and network and curious about all kinds of things. All kinds of things. And they can't stop my brain. Yeah, and it's the brain's kicking along, and that's natural for Gemini. And Gemini is meant to be out of the box, you know, kind of beyond the rules. That what Dan Giamara calls out of bounds. It's like, if you're going to play a game or if you're going to connect with people, you might make up different kinds of rules for that game. That's like, oh, this is boring. Let's do something a little more modified and different and outlandish a little bit there. What's interesting, when I was a kid, you know, and we go play, you know, you play games and you pick people. I would always pick the people that weren't technically as athletic, because it would be more of a challenge. It'd be more fun for me. Than to pick everybody that wins all the time. I didn't really like that, you know. Right. Everybody else is always trying to pick the best of the best, you know. That's how it was. Like, you know, you do that like when we were in grade school. Then go to recess, people would pick teams. If they didn't think you were athletic enough or anything, you would be last on the team. You wouldn't get much playing time. You wouldn't get much. But I like the, you know, like you said, being, which is crazy. Which all in all. Putting in just the Gemini thing, because I know the Gemini thing is so true that I would do things differently in order to have more excitement about it, you know? Right. You know? Oh, absolutely. You want, like, the imagination, the brain wants to be stimulated all the time. I mean, it's like, do that. Yes. And Gemini, one of the things that Gemini can be a real master at is not in part communication, but what we call shape shifting. Meaning you can take on different roles from moment to moment. And just play them. And it could be like a one-person show on stage where you're playing both the hero and the villain and any supporting roles that might come in. And Gemini's that talented. And I used to do acting. Oh, I'm not surprised. I used to act on stage. Wow. Gemini's great on stage. Oh, my God. Do you write too? I do like writing. Okay. To a certain extent, you know, but I like talking more. I like this, like what we're doing. Sure. I like to get to know people and see where they're at, see their brain. And I was going to ask you, so when you were a kid, were you into this kind of stuff as a kid too, or? I was interested in, now, full disclosure, I was born in the season of Sagittarius, opposite Gemini, and I have 5 planets in Sagittarius. Dang. So I have Capricorn. I have a little bit of Capricorn and Pisces too. So it's not all Sag, but it's a lot. So the polarity between Sag and Gemini is very strong, and when it comes to curiosity. So I was curious about things, and I was interested in the supernatural and ghosts and Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot, and even UFOs. But I never really it didn't really hit my, what we call I didn't really have a true spiritual experience, but I was feeling all kinds of things. All the time, huh? And it really didn't strike me until I started getting into my mid to late 20s. Around after 28, 29 years old is really when it fully started to emerge, and it was through dreams. And I was starting to, I had dated a woman at that time, and one of the gifts she gave me was a dream book. And I was curious about that. And I started writing down my dreams. And I was trying to understand the symbology of it and trying to figure it all out. What's going on? What's happening? And it actually started to help me in my life. And then things started, portals started opening up for me in different ways. People came into my life. I started feeling the world around me beyond my 5 senses. And I was just waking up. I was waking up, and it took several months, maybe a year or two before the full awakening took place, and my God, the world shifted. My whole perception of the world was different. It was turned around completely. So before that, then, you were a kid? Did you?
like want to be a fireman or something like that, or a lawyer or something like that?
Yeah, so fireman was one of them.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a scientist, another one.
Yeah.
And then another time I wanted to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
I wanted to go up and explore the stars.
Yeah, no politics. So.
No, not at all. No politics.
But the stars, which kind of triggered something in there for you.
So that reminds me, now it was kind of an awakening. It was definitely a transmission.
Yeah.
I grew up in Los Angeles, born and raised, so you don't see very many stars.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, well, on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, well, that's it.
That's a different kind of stars. Right.
And sometimes they're not shining so bright.
No, they're not shining all that bright. Sometimes there's some things. There's some issues happening.
Issues, yeah.
They're human too. Yes. But my friends and I, one summer, I was 18, not long before my 19th birthday, maybe 3 months. And we went up into the mountains, north of LA, and we were just cruising, went into we were going to go check out the city lights, from that distance. You go up there, it's really dark, but we pulled over in this, turnout, and oh my God, the stars were just alive.
Yeah.
I got to see a glimpse of the Milky Way, thousands of stars. It was the first time in my life I saw that. And there was a word that came to me at that time.
Yeah.
Home.
Oh, really?
Home. Yeah. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know if you could say that in this podcast. You can cut it out if you need to.
Yeah.
Cut it out. What the fudge or whatever. Yeah. So that struck me. And I was, one of the things that I experienced before that or after that was I actually took a year. I went to ITT Technical Institute, electronics engineering.
Oh, nice.
So I got to have a little bit of science in that.
Yeah.
Never finished the 2-year program.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot and I did well in math at that time. But my life took a different course after my parents ended up moving up to Palmdale, California. And I started getting into a little bit of writing. I started discovering my writing talents as well.
Yeah.
Creative writing particularly.
Yeah.
And so that also sparked some interest. But from childhood, that would be like one of the moments when I saw the stars that I didn't know at the time. I thought I'd be a scientist. I thought I'd be an astronaut, something like that. Yeah. But I didn't know I'd be an astrologer. Yeah.
It's almost like it triggered something in your DNA, huh? Just planted a seed at that time, kind of like, oh, home. This is your home. like
almost a familiarity too, in a way. Yeah. But it's just like, oh my God, what is that?
No, that's amazing.
And it threw me for a loop too, because it wasn't what I was not expecting at all. And I was hanging out with my friends. We were just like chilling, joking with each other and all of that, 17, 18 years old, you know. Yeah. That's what you do. And you hang out. But I didn't tell my friends what I experienced. I was embarrassed. You're like, what? I don't want to freak them out and go, oh God, what's going on with you, man? Are you okay?
That awakening, sometimes it pushes people away,
Right.
When you start waking up.
It definitely does. Yeah. And I can be very, I'm an empathic person. I sense things. Very compassionate, and I could cry during commercials and movies sometimes. So I feel into that, but for me, if I have a outlet to be able to connect with the stars, even today, it grounds me. It puts me back into balance. It connects me. I'm like, okay, I'm all right. No matter what's happening, I can feel like I'm part of the universe and say, So that's, going on a walk under the stars, just a year ago. I'll give an example. Like today, part of what I do in the world, I give astrology readings, I teach classes, I make YouTube videos sometimes, I write articles. I travel around doing different fairs.
A lot.
Yes, a lot.
I've seen them a lot of places.
Yes. Absolutely. So, but last year, and I've done this in other places too, but last year I went to Mount Shasta. I was invited to teach about the night sky.
Oh, nice.
So at the Panther Flat, about as far as you can drive on the mountain. Yeah. We went up there, and about 20 of us gathered together. There were other groups that were doing their own things. Yeah. But oh my God, it was like on top of the world, connecting The mountains, some cultures believe mountains had a stronger connection with the sky because they were so high up.
Yeah.
It was like you were connecting with the gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
And so I was up there like feeling all of that and sharing about the stars and the stories. Meanwhile, the Perseid meteor shower was going on.
Oh, that's so
people
wild.
were just like going, ooh, oh my God, did you see like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it was, I have never seen a spectacle quite like that before in my life. Especially on a mountain like that.
Especially Mount Shasta, where it already has like a lot of stuff going on.
Oh my God, it's a vortex. It is a portal to other worlds, other dimensions.
Oh, 100%.
You are in a space that goes beyond what we can describe here. I sometimes I don't have the right words to share. And I've watched some documentaries about Mount Shasta and read about it, and it's absolutely powerful. But that's an example of what I do and how I connect with the stars.
Would you mind explaining to our listeners about what the shamanic part of the astrology is?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that's interesting to me, is that's connected to it.
Right. So there is normal mainstream Western astrology that many people have, what's my sun sign? What's my horoscope? What differs shamanic astrology from regular astrology is that it's holistic. It connects into the three worlds concept, the underworld, the middle world, and the above world.
Yeah.
All are interacting with us at once.
Yeah.
And we in Western culture, tend to like focus in on the middle world, paying our bills, interacting with our family, spending time in relationships, hanging out, doing a lot of work, working a lot of hours, usually most Americans do, and paying because we got to pay our bills and all of that. Yeah. So a lot of material stuff, a lot of money stuff. But these other worlds don't care about any of that. It's more about our own self-development. And so those worlds really assist us in that. So that's another thing that differs shamanic astrology from regular astrology. Yeah. The other things is that it's not predictive per se. I mean, there are things in shamanic astrology where we see intent. Yeah. We see that, oh my God, there's a possible thread here for you, and a pattern could be repeated here for you.
Oh, yeah.
But it won't say right. But it won't say like on September 28th that be careful walking under this building. The air conditioning is going to fall on you. Yeah, that's not about
not at all.
Like that. Not at all. Yeah. You have the power to choose what direction you want to go, and you can go against sort of your own soul's intent. You can choose like, no, screw that. I want my ego to be protected. I want to feel safe and never step out of my house, or something along those lines. People can choose different routes, and I'm not there to force them or to tell them what to do, but I'm offering suggestions about how they can live in their life and thrive in their life more holistically than not. Yeah. So shamanic astrology honors all of that process, and it also works experientially, like with the stars we've talked about, and how the stars move across the sky, the sacred movements of the earth, and the patterns of the planets, and what they connect, how we connect with them, and as above, so below within ourselves. Yeah. So we have that, and that's a way of bringing the sky and the earth to us through this kind of astrology.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's a thing, even with the Conscious Living Fair, one of our goals and the thing that we're constantly working on is bringing people that aren't necessarily diving into this type of material, whether it's astrology, tarot, psychic readings, alternative health, and all that, right?
Yes.
We want to create a platform where people can feel comfortable just checking it out, right? Because there's a lot of misinformation or misunderstood stuff about it, right?
Yes.
And so what I'd like to ask people, what could you tell people that aren't really into it, something tangible that they can maybe hold on to make them feel more comfortable about exploring, like, let's say, shamanic astrology?
Yeah. Well, more comfortable in that this is one of the most ancient tools that we have on this planet. Yeah. And we all can connect. This is a universal tool. Like anybody can go out, and a great way to do that is like, okay, you see the sun and the moon. Yeah. If you just knew not just the sun sign, but if you knew like what phase of the moon that you were born under, you can divine and connect into that energy just by yourself.
Yeah.
And approach me and go, okay, can you tell me a little bit about that and how I can help myself? I can be there to share with you, like, symbolically what your life purpose is.
Yeah.
And that you don't need to know about astrology to do that.
Yeah.
I can just simply say and work with that psychologically and symbolically without having to get into all the technical details that might be intimidating to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So this is just like some basic information that somebody comes to me, okay, can you help me understand why I keep batting my head against a brick wall when I'm trying to go in this direction?
Yeah.
And I could share, okay, well, maybe there's a pattern that is being repeated here because the universe is saying there's another direction for you.
Yeah, for you to go.
You to go. And you might want to take a chance to try that other direction to see how it feels. You know, trying on this new pair of shoes.
Yeah.
You know, you might resist because it's not familiar, but there's something there.
Yeah.
And it may give you clues as to your life purpose.
Yeah.
So try on those shoes, see how it feels. I'm not here to, you know, to be your, you know, the grand wizard of, you know,
of your life,
of the Rogue Valley, and go, I have divined. And then lights and shadow flash around, and no, this
and
is
on your way out, do my laundry.
Yes, that's right. Please, and wash my car while you're out there too. It's hot out there, but it definitely needs a bath.
No, that's good.
So this is just human to human.
Yeah.
Coming to me, I'm here to I want to be of service in the world.
Yeah.
I want to help people thrive.
Yeah.
And just talk to I'm a regular person just like you.
Yeah.
And I have, you know, I have to put on my pants just like everybody else does, and take a shower, clean myself, eat food 3 meals a day, whatever.
Shop at Trader Joe's.
No plugs there or anything. Right?
I wish.
Yeah, exactly. I still have
don't plug me like that.
That's right. We still have to push our own carts.
Yeah,
and, you know, I don't have a personal shopper or anything like that. I do my own thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm another human just out there seeking out the meaning and truth of my own life.
Yeah.
And this is about the journey. And so for those seekers out there, those curious seekers, feel free to come and ask a question. There's no judgment here.
Yeah.
There are no bad questions.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know what question to ask, it's okay. Yeah. Whatever comes through, comes through.
Yeah.
And this is a safe space.
Yeah.
A safe environment. And, you know, we are each other's teachers and guides.
Yeah, 100%.
And I may have, quote, knowledge that you may, quote, not have, but we all have what is within us.
Within us, yeah.
And that can guide us far. We don't, you know, our heart and soul.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many tools we might try to dress on that or language. We can be guided from within, no matter what. We can develop our own relationship to creation and to the cosmos, to the earth.
Yeah.
These are, you know, if we can connect into those levels, there's nothing that can stop us.
Nothing.
No.
And what I like is, like what you said is, you know, you're just there to help give the information. Really, people got to be like, my wife, she created a shirt that said, be your own guru.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be your own guru. You got all you can do is take this information. What you do with it is up to you.
100%
you know?
Right.
Yeah, because no one is going to save you but yourself anyway, right?
Yeah. I was just reminded of it. There was that T-shirt you were wearing, that email newsletter.
Oh,
like, Free yourself from...
freedom starts with unshackling the mind.
Yes, unshackling the mind with the skull
with
there.
all this stuff.
That is powerful.
Yeah, and she created that too.
Oh my God.
She's she does the emails and everything. She's
very
she does. Creative. She's very talented.
Yeah.
That's a plug for my wife.
So I love that. I'm like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
We all have the power within ourselves to free ourselves, to unshackle ourselves, to choose our path. Yeah. Like I was just in the conversation I had with a friend this morning, you know, with all the problems of the world, the wars, the polarization, every human being, for the most part, has the ability to choose not to have violence or to threaten or to blame others.
Yeah.
We have the power to choose a different kind of a path.
Yes.
If we wanted to, truly, tomorrow we don't have to have war.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we can have peace throughout everywhere.
Yeah.
If we choose as a collective.
As a collective.
As a collective. All of it. And so we all have that power to choose. So that's one thing that each of us can do in our own lives.
Yeah.
And it's very disheartening, and it wars and other things create all kinds of powerful, potent emotional reactions 100%. To all of us. And woundedness.
Yeah. The
perpetuation of all the woundedness, millennia after millennia after millennia. There's no end in sight.
Yeah.
So we have to take a different track.
We have to.
And so I know that like when I travel to do different fairs, including with the fair, which is, I love that because I live in Ashland, and I love that there's a semi-regular fair here that you and your wife do.
Yeah.
That people can connect with others. But when I go to these other fairs, there's a hunger for answers,
isn't there?
Understanding, like what's happening with me, where am I going?
Yeah.
We see that everywhere.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's every human being has something, even if they don't admit it to themselves. They think they might have it all figured out. I remember, some people in their 20s are like, nope, I understand. It's all fine. I've got it all figured out. I'm on my mission. Yeah. And they might have some things, but it can help them get, if they limit themselves to just one path, for example, that's fine, but look around us.
Yeah. Expand
feel into what we're doing. The fairs that I do up and down Oregon and some in California. I'm going to California a few times this year.
Nice.
Mount Shasta, there's a fair at the end of September that I'm doing as an example. People want to know, they want to connect with kindred spirits.
Yeah.
And my God, it's in that environment, there's such a safe and sacred space there.
Yeah.
In almost every fair I've done. I mean, there have been a few exceptions here and there. I've done many, many dozens of fairs. But they want to know.
Yeah, they do.
And I've seen some of them travel to fairs, learn things, and then they end up joining some of the fairs themselves. I just had a client email me this past week about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, yes.
That's good.
Connect.
Get in there.
Get in there. Find your truth. Share with the world with what your gifts are to help others.
Yeah, I feel like ever since all this stuff that happened, with everybody getting sick, the pandemic.
Yes.
I think what it did is it kind of opened up a lot of things for people to start questioning what they've been, you've been moving in life and so unconsciously moving, going to work, doing these things. And what it did is it offered people an opportunity to question, like, is this it? Am I doing all this and then this could happen? And then I've been doing all this for what? And I really, truly don't feel fulfilled because we've been chasing all these material things. Like, you go to school, you go to school, you go to college, you get a career. And you do that career, and you get a family, and you buy a house, and you're stuck in that house for 30 years, and that's it?
Yeah.
And some people are starting to, I think it actually caused people to expand in a lot of ways, and that's why there's more people searching it out.
Right. And in the astrology that I practice, when we look at these signs as archetypes, there is a small percentage of the population where what you just described can work. But that's like less than 5%.
Yeah.
What about the rest?
Yeah, the rest.
Right? And there's so many different variants of just doing the standard role.
Yeah.
There's so many different, because when we get to our midlife, we get to our late 30s and to our 40s, and we're like, what the hell? What is this? Where am I going?
Yeah.
And it's meant to shake up our lives. It's meant to disrupt things so that we can wake up. So that we can oh my God, there's something else going on here.
Yeah.
And, that's where, and it's, yes, people call it a crisis because it can be a little chaotic. But the word crisis from ancient times, I don't know if it's Greek or Latin, but it meant an intersection point, a decision point in our lives. Yeah. And it wasn't meant, and when we have a decision, there can be tension. Yeah. There can be stress, because if it's like, oh my God, do I go to this job I'm being offered here, or do I go if I just keep the same way? But I'm taking a risk if I go over here, but the payoff could be amazing to my soul. Yeah. But this is job security, and I can build a retirement fund, and that's very attractive too. Yeah. So what does one do? And it can create tension, and there can be breakdowns because their soul might be torn a little bit. A little bit. So that's where it is. Or if they find something like, oh my God, I feel like I've completed my journey with my spouse. Yeah. We've been together 20 years, but we're drifting apart. Yeah. Are we still needing to be together? What is this? And
those are hard. Those are hard ones. Especially with the programming that we get, like you know, as a child growing up with TV and then the beginning of video games, and you know, you get programmed that way. The TV, especially when both parents have to go to work, and then the TV is really your babysitter. You know? Yeah, a lot of times. In order to maintain life, you know. Right. And so a lot of those things are also very hard to break through in order. And what I like is like even astrology and you know, because of the archetypal energies or the archetypal representation, it can give you kind of an idea of what's going on in the moment. You know what I mean? Or what's going on during that period because of the way that energetically where the planets are aligned and everything too. So you can have a better understanding and not be so lost about what's going on.
Yeah. So the archetypes can guide you, the planets themselves too, because when we're born, we have a birth chart. Yeah. It's a reflection of our soul's intent. We can think of it maybe as a guide, a roadmap of sorts. But as we travel through our journey, the planets are in motion. They're orbiting. Yeah. And when those do, they can connect with other parts of where our sun was at the time of our born, where our natal rising sign was at the time of our birth. And when they do that, things can shift in our lives. Yeah. There could be opportunities to change or change direction, or come up, even have an epiphany, or have an unusual event that really helps us grow and accelerates our growth. Or we can have a crisis at times. Like I had a soul crisis, but I was waking up at that time in my late 20s. I had a little bit of that spark at 18, and more has happened since then. And when I did wake up, I realized that there are no coincidences. Yeah. Synchronicities are abound. They're everywhere. Yeah. Things are meant to be, if you will. And if we pay attention, we can listen to those signs and symbols and connect with our lives. Yeah.
Maybe in the now instead of looking back, right?
In the now. But the past can teach us. Yeah. And it can be helpful, but not to dwell or get locked into that. Yes. Because that's where there could be some danger in that.
Yes. You'll be reliving it. Yeah. You can't stay there.
You know, like say you have someone really dear to you, or a parent that you lost, and you never really had a chance to say goodbye, but yet the pattern keeps in it, and that past holds you. It keeps you locked in, and you're not able to live your life. Like, what is that? Obviously, there's a time of mourning, but maybe 5-10 years around, you're still in that pattern. Yeah. What's going on? Yeah. Wouldn't your parents and your loved one want you to choose the life that you want? Yeah, you know? A different life. Yeah. A different life. So in shamanic astrology, we can kind of see that. We can see what's going on and help the person, but it can take sometimes a person a long time to come to a place where that they realize that, yes, they can step out of that old pattern and like claim themselves.
Yeah, and that's a big one, being able to see that what I've realized in this journey, in my own journey, is that I've been keeping myself in certain patterns. You know what I mean? Because really, you know, I don't know. There's so many different aspects to it, like it's trapped in your body. But even us just keeping it there because we feel like it's part of our identity even, you know what I mean? Yeah. But we don't even see it. We just are acting it out all the time.
Oh yeah,
you know. So
we're so familiar with it that if we removed it, we'd feel naked.
Yeah, and that's when the crisis happens again.
That's right. Exactly.
The foundation of who you are is now in question, has been crumbling, and then all of a sudden you're looking around, and in the tarot we call that the tower moment, right?
Oh yes. Yeah, but the tower can be really good because the chaos helps bring in it causes us to doubt where we are. Yeah. It causes us to create more opportunities for wonderment and curiosity. Yeah. Going, okay, if this is being torn astray or asunder, and we have to do something different. Like the old pattern, the old story doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
Something else wants to come through.
Yeah.
And allow it to come through, whatever that is. Your soul is speaking to yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and the ego can't run the ship by itself. The ego is not just self; it's part of self, but it's a small part.
Yeah,
it helps us operate here in this middle world reality.
Keeps us alive in certain situations and stuff.
Absolutely, but if you repress the soul, it will act out unconsciously in our life, and that can create all kinds of problems at times.
Like Saturn returns.
Yes.
And I think it's meant to, right? It's meant to have you question.
Saturn return is a really good example. It's one of the more well-known astrological cycles. We have around 29 to 30 years old, and we get them every 29 to 30 years. So the next time you and I will get it was when we're about 59 or roughly in that zone. So when we so obviously for those of you that are in Saturn returns, it's a powerful intersection in one's life, but you're planting the seeds for your long-term future. Saturn keeps us on task. Yeah. It tells us time to grow through these limits and boundaries, but also to say, where are your limits? Yeah. And if you put too harsh of a limit on yourself, it may be a time to reassess that. Woo. And that could be has some heavy lifting there.
I know.
Yeah.
Especially if you put it's very interesting because depending on all the other things that you go into your life, you really do put limitations and you put yourself in a box of who you think you should be.
Right.
And you want to expand.
Exactly.
You keep saying, I got to get beyond this, but then are you really willing to to go through it,
Like if we might have a certain perception, and what I feel lucky about is in the relationship that I have with my girlfriend, we encounter things where both of us encounter parts of our own limits.
Oh, yeah.
And I go, oh my God, what am I doing here? Why am I reacting in this fashion?
Yeah.
And then I realize, wait a minute, I'm going into an old unhealthy pattern.
Yes.
Okay, I'm recognizing that.
Yes.
And she's reflecting on that. I'm like, okay, just breathe and find out what's happening there. And tap into that, and then have let's have this dialogue. Let's grow together.
Yeah.
So that could be Saturn can be really helpful in recognizing that. But it can also, when you are planting your seeds for the long term, building a foundation, my God, it can be very strong in the long term if you do it in the right way.
Yeah.
But not to such a state where you build a fortress around yourself and so you build your own prison.
Yeah.
No, not like that. But something flexible and is able to grow.
Yeah.
And not just locked in with 1,000 mag locks and 1,000 passwords to have to go through.
With alarm system, right?
Alarm systems.
Viper.
Yes, right.
Yeah, what's interesting that you mentioned that with your partner or your girlfriend. My wife and I are always talking about, we should do something on the divine union, because we both, there's a divine union within us, right? And that we have to be in touch with. Absolutely. And then when you're in a relationship with somebody, you're right, things reflect. And my wife and I go through it too, we have to try to, and what I realize is sometimes some of those things are so deep.
Yes.
Even though you're going through it, it's so deep.
Yeah.
That it's hard to pull back and be like, it's almost like you're like Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you know who that is. You have to ride the momentum out.
Yeah.
And you have to wait for the momentum to go. And then after it's run its course, then you can pull back and be like, okay, I know what happened there.
Right. That's perfect. I mean, one example, like in astrology, when you have these sometimes really stressful or strong cycles that are coming through, and you're in a situation like what you described, you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
You've got to find your path through it. To ride, like Abraham Hicks said, to ride that momentum through.
Yeah.
And even as it plays on the collective, like when we had the pandemic and the insanity that happened on many fronts.
Yeah.
The only way to navigate that in a conscious way is to go through, not to avoid, not to run away, and not to go to such an extreme extent that you end up sabotaging yourself.
Yeah.
But to actually and go through it.
Yeah.
Now there was a lot of horrible things, but there was a lot of beautiful things in that too.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of compassion that wasn't really shown very much. A lot of empathy that wasn't really shown very much.
Yeah.
But so there was a lot of wonderful grace. Whenever we are in a crisis, grace can happen really strong. And if one looks around, we can find out. So we had, through that pandemic, collective trauma.
Yeah, big time.
Oh my God.
And everybody's traumas were being triggered. Like, brought to the surface.
Traumas within the traumas that were all happening at once. Yeah. And I had, just as an example, part of my journeys, I had a couple of breakdowns during that time. I was single at the time. Although I had a couple of friends that owned the home that I lived in. I had my own floor, essentially. Yeah. But I at least got to connect with them. I had some interaction there. Yeah. But still, there was that cutoff from the world.
From the world was big time.
And so I broke down a few times. Yeah. There was some despair, but part of what got me through was my relationship with the stars.
Yeah.
I found a deeper wavelength to connect with them.
Yeah. And you had more time.
I had more time. Exactly. Yeah. And it was like another layer opened up for me. I'm like, this was a blessing. This was a gift.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my gosh. I wouldn't trade that in for anything.
Yeah. And so, and you know what? That's when my awakening started happening. And mine wasn't anything big. It was more because I was just learning information. Yes. And at that period of time in my life,
very Gemini way of doing it.
Yeah, learning it right. Isn't that great? I never had that. But and that's the thing, because my life fell apart. And I was sitting there like, what the heck's going on? Like questioning. And then because I was questioning, I was able to observe, sit back. And I spent a lot of time observing everything around me. Yeah. And it's almost like, oh my God, I see the matrix. Or you know what I mean? Yeah. I see it. I see the overlays. I see the programming. I can tell you how this person is going to act. And why these people are acting this way, when before I would have been right in the thick of it, you know, not being able to see the forest from the trees. But because of circumstances happened to be that way, and the pandemic, and I lived in Minneapolis during that same time, the riots were going on. I was just walking around like, holy smokes, I can really see what's going on now compared to before. Right. You know, so during that period of time, it was like a blessing to me. Even though it was kind of crazy to everybody else, I was like, wow. And that's also when I met my wife.
So we had, on top of that. So when things opened up. She came into your life.
She came into my life, and we always talk about that. Like, I really learned to love myself. And because I was that beacon of love, then I was able to attract the love that I wanted. You know, and it's just amazing.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that really is, if we want to find one of the core elements of the universe, love. Yeah. I mean, there isn't much that compares with that. Yeah. We all, if we truly, we could start with liking ourselves, but if we get beyond that into the self-love, my God, you're coming into place of your own wholeness there. Yeah. Yeah. And you talked about the divine union, the sacred union.
Yeah, yep.
That is also, we have that within ourselves. We have masculine and feminine within ourselves, and 1,000 shades of gray, all in there.
Not just 50.
Not just 50. No, that's a different kind of 50, right? There's many other layers of gray there. Has nothing to do with a person named Gray. So just letting everybody know that. So that's where we can find that harmony. And then in shamanic astrology, Mars and Venus have a basic element, symbolic representation of the masculine and feminine principles. Yeah. Not necessarily just, quote, gender. That's part of it, but it's not really, the core of it isn't like an archetypal feminine and archetypal masculine. Yeah. What does that represent? But each of those planets are in a sign. Yeah. So within us, we have masculine and feminine signs. Like, for example, for me, my masculine Mars is Pisces. Yeah. My feminine Sagittarius, or Venus, is Sagittarius.
Yeah. And Pisces is very emotional, very
deep, sensitive, empathic. And then Sagittarius wants to explore and seek meaning and truth and travel. Yeah. So for me,
and you do travel.
Yes, I do. Yeah. So how do I combine that? Well, I take the travel, the seeking of knowledge and truth and meaning, combine that with being of service and helping people and feeling in.
Yeah.
Like when I'm on the road and I'm connecting into like sometimes I take roads that have like hardly any cars.
Yeah.
Or go on hikes with hardly anybody there. It's exploring, but then I also, like, one of the qualities that Pisces has is strong spiritual divine connection.
Yeah.
Like it wants to merge with spirit.
Yeah.
And so that mergence can happen through the exploration too.
Yeah.
And that's bringing in the Mars and Pisces and Venus and Sagittarius together.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And that's where I can find some divine union within myself.
Yeah.
Of course, there's also the external union. When you've got each other in your partnership relationship, Mars and Venus interacting with each other in that, and a lot of projections. Like, where do you find that interaction and be able to have healthy mirroring of each other?
Yeah.
And that's 100%. Where some powerful work can happen.
Yeah, a lot of expansion during that period.
Yes, and like new neural connections start to form, and whoa, and your heart starts to operate a little bit differently through that process.
More coherent, right?
Yes. Like you're in a more lucid state with your soul.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Erik, I want to respect your time. It's we're getting close here.
Oh, yes.
And before you leave, what I want you to do is, could you share with everybody how they can get a hold of you, and if they want to contact you, where some of your material is at, where they can access you?
Yeah, thank you, Sol. So you can find me at inspiralnexus.com. The word I-N, Nexus, Nexus. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Inspiral. I-N, the word spiral, like the rvml.org is a spiral right here. It's not, you can't see it on the camera, but it's right there. But if you think of spiral, it's one of the universal symbols of the spiral of life and our journey that is infinite. And then the word nexus, our connection to earth and sky. So inspiralnexus.com. And my email, inspiralnexus@gmail. And you can find out more about me at the website, or book a reading, just have a conversation with me if you want to know more about this. I'm online on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And you can find me semi-regularly at Conscious Living Fair as well. Right. July 20th coming up here. Yeah. And I plan on being and connecting into more events with you and Maeve as well.
Yeah,
so
maybe a workshop or something.
Yes.
You can do a workshop.
So I'll be teaching classes, and you can find a list of my events too online on my website as well.
That's awesome. And we'll make sure to put that on the screen.
We'll have the link here for everybody. And I'm just excited because I also at times work with other healers out there, and we do things together too. Yeah. So that's, collaboration, cooperation is a strong part of what makes us human.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And why we are here today.
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, literally, because if we were just only an aggressive, assertive human being, we wouldn't have very many people on this planet.
No,
and we'd be broken up in secluded tribes and fearing everybody else around us.
In caves still.
In caves, perhaps. Yeah, exactly. But what got us here really is strong cooperation.
Yeah. And
we can thrive in that. That's a topic for another time, but I'm excited. Yeah. So that's how you can find me online, and feel free to reach out. And so, of course, what's the Conscious Living Fair's website?
Yeah, it's consciouslivingfair.org. Yeah, okay. and make sure you check him out. Really, he's consistent, which is something that a lot of people need in life. He's very consistent with what he does. He really is out there to serve. He's been at the fair every time for us, so it's I can't say enough about. My wife likes him because he's right on point. Whenever he signs up, she's type A. She likes that kind of stuff. But there is so much for everybody to gain. Come check us out.
Yeah.
Even the Conscious Living Fair, other practitioners. And really, my wife and I, we just want to create a platform and create community.
Yes.
Too. So we also have revillaging. If you want to check on the consciouslivingfair.org, some of the stuff we have revillaging, where we have men and women circles, and then the family get together for a potluck on Sunday. The first one is coming up. We also have, we're going to be doing workshops with our vendors, whichever vendors want to do that. And also, I also have to plug our VML for having us do this podcast here in their spot. Our VML is always helping us out, always sponsoring, always looking out for the community. If you don't know about them, please check out our VML.
They're a wonderful resource and just a wide selection of books here, metaphysical and self-help books.
Yeah.
rvml.org. And and if you have any extra books to donate to this is the place.
This is the place. Yeah. One of the first places my wife and I used to come to all the time when we first got here in Ashland, and still cornerstone of our life. It's crazy.
It's absolutely. I'm right with you here.
Yeah.
So thank you all for watching and being part of this. We love you, and more to come.
More to come. Thank you. Stay tuned for the next episode. Woo!
Yeah.